Hello, Askem Studios fans and followers. We know that it has been a while. It has been since July, but we are coming to you today with episode 7 of the Askem Studios Wedding Podcast. My name is Todd, and this is my lovely wife,
Kelly.
And we're coming to you. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, not of my choosing. It's been like twisting arms to get the other part of this show on the air. So regardless, along with that, we have had, a very busy...
Wait.
What do you mean? Wait. Okay.
Fairness, okay? Like the other half of this does have a full-time job. I have 5 kids and... yeah, it's just been it was a crazy summer, so like
the audience,
back on me.
The audience doesn't want to hear your excuses, Kelly. I mean, we've got a big following now in California, in Florida. I think our last episode had over 400 listens. They're starving. They're starving for the content that we bring when we bring these podcasts, and you have been making them malnutritioned.
I would love to see all of the. I'd like to hear from all the people that have been starving for this content. If you can prove that to me, then I will make the commitment to make this a higher priority.
The analytics don't lie, but we're not here to go over tick and tack, so we're going to head right into today's topic. Today we are talking about, discussing choosing between budget friendly and I can't use the word I have on the paper. What would you put in there?
There's people that are budget friendly and they're really trying to, give, a customer a quality product. And, even though their skill level may not be as high as others, they're really trying to work hard at that. And then there's other people that are just like, hey, I can make a buck off of this. So, and they're going to be happy with whatever I give them.
Right.
I think it's different personalities.
Yeah, and what really spurred this conversation on is a trend that we have seen a little more frequently where brides are getting taken advantage of by some outfits that are folding up shop and leaving a lot of people like out in the dark. And it's something we wanted to just address. Not that our voice, I don't know, our malnutritioned audience may really enjoy this, but no, it's something that it's quite frankly, as a professional, it's aggravating to see. So we had a bride that we had saw that she had put up a post and she was taken advantage of, and we had followed up, and we're luckily we're able to do her wedding for her.
Yeah, and in fairness to her, like she did her due diligence. Like she went to she found them on like a reputable wedding site, and she checked the reviews and things like that. But even with all of that, sometimes people can still get had. But there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more brides that have even had like the not necessarily like where the person has gone out of business or whatever, but there's definitely a lot of brides that I think get taken advantage of, and thinking that they're going to get one type of product and then end up getting something different. Yeah.
And so, I mean, one of the things that we wanted to start out was addressing the uptick, but what are the things to look for? More, not necessarily look for it. It's impossible to know when you're heading into something. But what are the right questions to ask to give you that security and that peace of mind that you're not going to fall victim to this?
I think it's important that you have some sort of like personal rapport with the people that you're hiring. Obviously, when you're picking a venue and things like that, you are able to meet these people in person and you're able to find that out. And there are a lot of, larger companies, whether it's catering or, DJs or, even videography and photography, in which you can hire large companies and you may not necessarily, meet that person or whatnot. But generally speaking, you usually have some sort of conversation with somebody. And so I think if you have a good feeling about just having that conversation with them, that's definitely, for me, like that would be like my first, this is a good fit. Then I would go and I'd be looking at the their actual work. What does this actually look like? Or tasting, and things like that. Because even though you and I have very different tastes as far as like food. You may think something tastes really good and I'm just like, no, it's okay. So I think, that's another important thing that like, even though your sister absolutely loved it, you may not like it. So, actually putting your own personal, feeling in there, or your personal touch. And then obviously going with like reviews, because, as much as it drives us nuts that, we have to kind of beg people to give us, reviews, things like that sometimes. Even though they're like, oh, we love it, it's perfect. We're always like, okay, great, leave us a review. It's they really are very important. I know, like when you and I are traveling, we really get a kick out of like checking out the reviews of the hotels that we're possibly staying at, or the restaurants that we're going to stop at. Like, some of the things that people put in there, I'm just like, that's a different perspective. I don't know if I would have thought to add that. So
yeah, I mean, but to piggyback on what you're saying about like doing your due diligence, I think that a big thing is, obviously I'm going to promote small business because we're small business. When you get into some of these, there are some, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like I'm knocking the expansion, because as we grow, are expanding ourselves. But I think finding someone, number one, that is, if they are larger, that you can actually put a face, whether it is a Zoom call or whether it's even FaceTime or a phone call, something with a voice and a face to it, that you have something tangible. If you're doing all of your correspondence via email and you're not actually having, like, for example, I'll just throw out what we do for our consults, right? Our consults are normally 30 to 45 minutes. We don't have the same luxury as the photographer where we are doing an engagement session, so we don't already have that one-on-one interaction. But don't get me wrong, we would love to do that. So like, if you want to do a save to the date video or something like that, sorry, I got to throw the shameless plug in, but realistically, I mean, we spend a lot of time on the phone. I spend a lot of time back and forth on the emails. I think half my day is probably like doing follow-ups or emails or the consults, and then the other half is editing. At least that's the way it's been over the last couple of weeks. But just having that interaction back and forth. And then the other part, it's easy to find a budget-friendly option, but making sure your fiance is part of this process. As a male, I can speak to this. If Kelly were to come to me with 17 different videos and she was like, okay, we're going to sit down and watch all these, I don't know that I would be that invested. I would probably tap out.
Well, no, you would be invested in the videos. If I were to come to you,
if I weren't a videographer,
yeah.
If I was just regular Joe, not running Askem Studios,
well, a perfect example.
Would check out.
No, perfect example. Like when I came to you and said, "Hey, we need to check out photographers to get AJ's senior pictures done." I was like, "Hey, I need you to help me look at these." You were like, like you were not invested in that at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, "But I need because I needed you. You have a better eye than I do." And yeah, so I definitely think that's true, that the males, that generally speaking, most males are like, whatever makes you happy, honey.
Right. I mean, I don't want to stereotype our grooms, but I'm just saying,
because we've had some grooms that are actually very hands-on.
Yeah. But I mean, realistically though, I think that makes a huge difference. I think that you're working off of emotion. You're all excited about your wedding day. You're trying to get stuff booked. You have your own time schedule of doing stuff inside of a work schedule or a family life. And so just as, we have that same thing going on our end and a different perspective, the couples have that as well. And I think making that time available, not maybe rushing into the first person that you look at, considering your options, making a pros and cons list. What do I like about this person that I don't like? Another big thing that we talk about all the time whenever we're doing a consultation that we may not necessarily feel that we've landed on the consultation, we'll talk about like, okay, if you're going to talk to other vendors, these are the questions that you need to ask. Is the audio included? Is there emphasis on the audio? Because 20 years down the road, you may have great visuals from your day. Kelly and I actually have started to watch different vendors work. Not because we're necessarily trying to do a comparison, but we just like to see what other vendors are doing as well. And so we noticed the differences that we're talking about. So if you're having to turn your TV up 10 notches, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're hit with a speech that's like blown out, and you got to turn it back down, that could be a problem.
Right.
And it's not that the vendor is a problem. Maybe they're just starting out. And because maybe, and I'm not knocking it. I want to be very careful here.
Because like we've even gone back and looked at like our work that we started with, but I think that's the difference. Like, so when you're looking at, vendors that may be lower cost on like your span. So if like you're looking at 3 different vendors and they're all within like $300 or $400 of each other, and you're like, well, I like this just as much as I like this. Then you kind of have to look and see, okay, what are they doing different from each other that this person may be charging more than this person. And that's the big difference. Cause like, I know that there's a lot of, a lot of just videographers that we've looked at, and I've been like, okay, well, I think for like the work that they're providing, I think that looks like to be a fair amount. Because I do see like, that there's maybe some shakiness, or like, they're not, capturing like the full entire day because their hours are different than like what somebody else's hours are. Right. So I think that's where you have to, and this is one thing we tell our couples too, when we're consulting with them, is you have to determine what's important to you. And so like for us, we always put a high value on having quality audio. And I definitely think that like our audio stands apart from a lot of other vendors, that we're like, I guess, in competition with, so to speak.
Right.
I definitely think that the system that we have, makes our videos stand out. But I think that's what you have to look at is that when you're looking and you kind of narrow down your fields, then you have to go back and say, okay, where's my priorities? Right. Like, what's the most important thing to me out of my services? I know I've seen a lot more, photographers that are offering, like their traditional look may be more like a light and airy, but I've seen a lot more photographers saying, hey, I can do, dark and moody too. Like, even though this has always been my progression, I can do this work as well. So I think, that's important. Like if you really like a photographer's work, but you're like, it's just not quite what I want.
Talk to them.
Talk to them. Just because that's not what they normally do doesn't mean that they wouldn't be willing to do something different.
Yeah. And I think that's fair, because I think that kind of handcuffs the vendor into being a stereotype, where realistically, like we had someone reach out to us and they were asking, okay, just in regards to that look you were just mentioning about, is that something we can do? And I'm like, well, actually it is something that we already do. It's something that is done before I go through my final processes. So if she wouldn't have asked, she wouldn't have known. Maybe she would have assumed. But I think that, like, kind of going back to the other part of it is, like, I think this is where experience matters. When you're having these conversations with your vendor, whether it's a more budget-friendly option or whether it's a higher-end option, you can tell real quick on that consult if they've got experience or not. Are they answering your questions that you already have leading into the consult without even being led into the question?
And I think it's important to recognize that experience does not necessarily mean how many weddings you have done.
Right.
Because you can do like 10 quality weddings and have learned so much and have, grown leaps and bounds. And then there's people that may have done like 20 weddings and have not put the time and effort into their craft to grow their skills.
Right.
It's quality over quantity.
Right.
Is, I think that's important. So like keep that in mind too when you're looking at the reviews. There may be a company that only has like 10 reviews on that, but that doesn't mean that they're not just as qualified or just as good as somebody who has like 500. Yeah.
I mean, so recognizing the difference, like you said there, between quality and how did you put that? Quality
over quantity.
Right. So maybe, recognizing that, but I really think it comes down to the consult. I think the personal. Really does. I think that your personalities, and like I said, I mean it's easy when it's last minute. You're trying to book something, that you only have a certain dollar amount. That's another thing to talk about. Just because you reach out to somebody and they may be out of your budget, ask them, do they do a payment plan? That's one thing that we do for our couples. If they're like, okay, we really love your work. I mean, not that we're astronomically priced, because we're not, but I mean, we've structured payments out for people just because, okay, if you can do so much by this date, we can extend the rest of it out a year. If you really want what we have to offer, we're going to work with you. And so I think that's a difference, because of our age. I don't know. But I think it's also, but I look at it as an investment in our couples.
Oh, I think like that was when we first started out, like we didn't know that most vendors do like thirds, like, that they ask for a third up front and then, another third. And like, we didn't know that. So there have definitely been times like where we, probably lost money because, we would have brides that, like, especially like around COVID, that would just, they're just like, we're just canceling, period. And so like, we didn't recoup any of that money that or whatever, which was fine because that's our business model.
right Well, I mean, there are a couple of weddings that we ate, like literally, like with us having multiple teams. When we first started out doing weddings, I was charging $500, $750, and I think $975 for the 3 different packages. I didn't know what to charge. And a lot of that was because I was trying to build up my portfolio.
Right.
Now, you're still going to find that same scenario today.
Right, as it should be. Like, when you're starting out, you should have lower prices because you don't have the experience. And like I said, they're portfolio type things. So,
and so you will be taking a gamble. But with that gamble, you may incur some of these other gambles that we're talking about. And so I think that's where you really got to sit down and be careful. Not because I'm trying to say, don't go with these $500, $750, and $975 weddings, because I mean, that was us. We did that.
Yeah.
But anyone is charging $500, $750, $975, whatever the low price, eventually is going to raise their prices.
Yep.
Because as they grow, they're going to realize that, okay, I cannot sustain, for us, we have a family of 5. We cannot sustain our family off of this. And then the amount of time on the back end that properly goes into everything.
Right.
People don't see that part of it. I think sometimes it's like, poof, there's a video, like, 2 months later. But there's a lot of time and a lot of time away from other things that are priorities in life too, going into this. So as a business, I don't mean that negatively. I'm saying like as a business, that's where some of your cost comes in too.
Right. But I think that's an important factor for you to be taking in, for couples to be taking in mind too. Like, we often hear like, man, weddings are so expensive, and they definitely are. I'm not like second guessing that or whatever, but you also have to remember that like these professionals that you're hiring, it's their profession. Mm-hmm. Like I work, a 9-to-5 type job, Monday through Friday. So like I have like, that's my career, so to speak. That's my profession. Mm-hmm. But videographer is your profession. Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily like what you're doing during the week is your income, but like the way we like what we have, like the true way that we make the money is like on a Saturday or a Sunday, like the actual event, like you guys are paying for the event, but the work continues past that one day. Yeah. And so you have
12 to 18 hour days, and depending, and that's per, anyways, I don't want to, like I said, I want to be very careful. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm discouraging anyone from taking, from trying to acquire work from someone that's a lower end.
No.
Because, I mean, God, if that would have been the case, I would have been cut out a long time ago. So we're definitely very grateful for the experience we were able to gain from that. But I think and we don't know all the answers, and we're not the top
Wait, we
echelon. No. So, but at the same time, like I think that there's just like, I'm very aggravated with like the scene. People getting burnt like that when they're entrusting their memories, their day into someone to have come into their day and capture a moment in life that they will want to relive for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And then to turn around and get burnt at the last minute and then have to scramble to find somebody. I can only imagine. That's the biggest part that has me like, it creates a bad look for everybody. Because Kelly, you had seen a post earlier this week online, and it was talking about like
it was a bride, and she was basically just, you know, similar to what we're talking about. She was just encouraging people to, you know, really spend time, you know, looking at all of their options and not necessarily just going with the first person, you know, that they, you know, come in contact with. And you know, that, you know, and she, in her particular post, she was more frustrated with the fact that she would be talking to vendors and they would have like astronomical travel fees when they weren't really traveling. They would be like 10 miles down the road and they were charging, you know, a large travel fee, and she didn't understand that. And so it was kind of interesting because I saw a lot of brides kind of respond to that and saying, you know, hey, like, you have to take into account, like, if it's a DJ, they're lugging, you know, if they're lugging, you know, all this equipment like up 3 flights of stairs, you know,
and we've seen that,
you know, like, why should you not pay more than someone where they just have to walk it into a reception hall? You know, she's like, you know, it's their job and they're the ones doing the work, so they're allowed to put what, you know, they feel they're worth, you know, into their pricing. And, you know, and I kind of understood that. I mean, travel fees is a big thing for me. Like
we get asked about travel fees a lot, but we already factor that in to our pricing.
I mean, and really with, you know, gas being what it is, we probably should start charging travel fees. And we actually we started reimbursing our teams because we felt bad. But it's, you know, it's hard. Like, it's hard to, you know, try and, you know, our philosophy has always been like, you know, you're hiring us to do a job. Why should we you know, put something back on you because I have to, you know, I'm not necessarily within the area that you are. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. But that was the point of her post, was that she was kind of trying to really let brides know that it's possible to find, you know, a vendor that doesn't necessarily, you know, charge these things, or, you know, and she looked at it as as quality. And a lot of the brides kind of didn't necessarily agree with that. They kind of felt like, you know, if someone's charging lower, then the quality or the experience, you know, wasn't there. And I think that was, you know, and I wanted to jump in, but I hate getting into those things.
Well, I think that what you had mentioned to me, the expression of seeing the other bride saying, okay, let's recognize like why XYZ is worth this. And so where we automatically assume that, you know, that would not be the case, that it would be like, well, I've got like, we're done planning everything. Last person we need to book is a videographer. What can we get for $1,500? A lot of times I will see that. There's nothing wrong with that. We always do like to say, like, when you're putting your budget together, photography and videography, and I'm not trying to be biased, you know, but I'm just saying as Joe not running Askem Studios, you know, that's going to be my new.
You can't be biased. Yeah. You're biased. You can't not be.
But those are two critical parts to capture in your day, is my point. So why would you want to take a shortcut? I will get on the videographer pedestal for a minute, but like, I feel like we're last to the table sometimes, but because I don't know that it's necessarily looked at worth-wise the same. I think that both vendors are extremely qualified to capture your day, and there's extreme value in that. And I would almost argue that you should definitely be making sure that you're doing your homework when you're looking into that, because with something so delicate as, you know, we were watching a video the other night. Now, granted, we don't sit around and watch wedding videos like every night of the week. So I'm not trying to sound like that.
You probably do.
Well,
I don't.
I do a lot of my off time consists of doing homework for getting better. But so I probably do. But I mean, like, just having, if your family is a priority to you, having the right videographer that's going to capture those family moments, not maybe one that is focused on other things that 20 years from now aren't going to be such an emphasis to you. Like, making sure that you have the right fit. Like,
I think, there's some videographers that have like a very different focal point than like what we do. Like ours is generally, very much just an overview of the day with more focus put on the couple and their interactions with their friends and family. And then
so storytelling as the day unfolds.
Yeah. And then, but there are some of the videos that I have seen have definitely been more focused on like the excitement and the party of the day and things like that.
The excitement around the partying of the day.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
well,
let's just call it what it is. That's exactly what we. So yeah.
No, because I've seen that there's been more, and I don't want to say like goofiness or whatever, but like there was like one that we watched where like you could just tell in the bride's personality that she was very, like cut a rug and, very like jovial and, she like, kind of like had like outtakes and things like that. And, that just totally fit her personality. So I think, for that couple, I could see why, they chose, that videographer because it made sense. I don't know that she would have been completely happy with the more storytelling type thing. Like I think, she was looking for more of a, let's kind of have, fun and, let's kind of like poke fun at the funny things that are happening today. And,
well, I think, let me jump in because it makes it sound like, for me, I feel like that sounds like it's deterring something that we can actually do. But as someone that edits, I think that there is a little bit of a risk and reward factor there. The editing part of it, like, I think it maybe goes back a little bit to the couple. Like, I may not know them that well, so I don't know if it's appropriate. Like, I remember there was one video where there was the guys were sitting around watching a YouTube video of how to tie the ties, and I was like, okay, is this would this be something appropriate to put in film? But, is it something that would be appropriate to put in? And I don't know, because I don't know, that's the thing of, like, I think that sometimes we get a little gun shy, but we get a little gun shy about, like, pulling the trigger on some of that stuff because I don't know. I look at, Casey and Casey and Dale.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did we say we weren't going to mention Prides by name? I can't remember.
Well, it's too late now.
Anyway.
They love us anyway, so it's nothing you can say.
But because I think like when his son, he was like, I'm hot.
Right.
Like that, I don't like in my mind, typically that's not something that you would necessarily put in the video, but I think that you did end up putting it in there.
Yeah.
But that was just because
I felt comfortable with that couple.
Yeah. Well, and I told you that like his dad thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. And we do put funny moments in there. It's not that we don't. I don't know. I kind of felt like that was going sideways. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to get sidetracked with like a squabble. Squabble in the making. So, but, like realistically, like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, making an informed decision while getting into your day, these couples that are getting burnt, I'm sure they've done their due diligence. I don't want to just come on here and make it sound like I'm assuming things. At the end of the day, please, please, please do your homework. There are it's a wonderful community out there of videographers that have rallied around support in these brides that I've seen that have had to wait, that have had something come up in the last minute. And like I said, it is a black eye on the industry, but 99.9% of the vendors are not looking to rip people off.
Right.
And so I feel bad when I see it. And, it's something that's been happening more frequently. And I don't even know if this podcast is helpful, but it's just something that's been grinding my gears, per se, to see on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because I belong to a bunch of different groups. So it's not just the ones for Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina where we operate. So I do see this happening, nationwide. And so it's just discouraging. But I felt Kelly and I have been talking about it more frequently. And I think that it's something that, we do need to address within the industry, the wedding industry per se. So as we wind this thing down, I wanted to take a minute to have two things brought up. First of all of our couples, past and coming up, we are extremely grateful for every one of you.
Yes.
And we would not be where we are without you guys. And, we're at 80 weddings this year. As of today, being September 21st, 2022, we're at 80 weddings. We're going to probably cap it here at some point. I don't know.
You always say that.
I know, but I just keep going. But, anyways, I'm not going to get political. So thank you. We truly do mean that. Kelly and I, and all of our teams are extremely grateful for each and every one of you. And we are excited to announce that we have, if you don't follow us on social media, and you don't already know, but if you don't follow us on social media, I don't know how you listen to this thing. So, because we promote very heavily. So, but, we have added another team here in South Carolina. So now that gives us technically 2 teams in South Carolina, and technically 2 teams in Virginia, even though Kelly and I still do go to Virginia as needed. We are extremely excited about our growth. Going back to what we said earlier, we have come a long way in the last 3 years.
Yes.
From the 500, 750, and 975 days that, thank God, we have finally cleared out. COVID really did a number on us, because we were stuck with those low price points that I didn't know what the heck I was doing at the beginning for a while. And so,
but I look at it, it's funny because, when 3 years ago, when we stepped out in faith and, followed, the path that God had put before us, and, and said, it's time for you to go in this direction. As scared as we were, we did it, and, God has blessed us abundantly. But I also look at it as, he knew that there were couples that needed the service that we were providing and needed it for this price point. Mm-hmm. And so even though we were in that point that price point for an extended period of time, it was part of God's plan, and I truly believe that. And there were so many couples that we were able to work with, and in turn have blessed us abundantly. I can think of 5 or 6 weddings that have been, that we ended up booking as a result of that, and that's partly where our growth came from. It's a huge point of where our growth came from. But
the word of mouth, especially off of the ones that were lower priced. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, since we're talking about pricing, ask us. Don't assume that our prices are out of your budget.
Yeah, because even though we have our package prices on there, we have always been able to custom build something, for couples that, if we needed to adjust like a time frame, or, what actually comes in, your package, or
if we needed to adjust the payments, and just say I know you may be not able to pay this right now, but can you do $50 a month for the next year? It doesn't sound ideal, and it's actually against everything business related. But we're not doing it for that,
right?
Though.
Yeah,
and that's what that was. What I was starting to say. We're not doing it for that. We do want to be compensated. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, if there's a couple that really, I would rather you pay us, $50 a month for a year, to have a memory that you're going to 20 years down the road, you're going to look back on and you're going to have, as opposed to bypassing having a videographer. And then 17 years later, you barely have any photos left because you have 5 kids and they've gone through your photo books. And so some of your stuff is missing. And it sounds like I'm internally raging here about our own family life, but we have no video on top of it. We barely have wedding photos.
We have
and
photos.
We have no video.
They're just,
and as like, we get older, no, I'm going to cut you off, because as we get older, our memories are failing. Like it's you know,
I'll pull out all of our wobble videos for you. How's that?
Right. We can stitch all those together in like an hour-long compilation.
Yes.
So, but anyways, this podcast has been all over the place today. So if you're still with us, thank you. So, but really, we do heartfelt mean every word of this. Thank you for investing in us as we invest in you. Yeah. And we are,
and I really hope that more than anything, that you all hear our hearts, and that, we hope that that all vendors will get to the point where they will have the same philosophy, in their business, and that they're appreciative of being asked to be part of your day. Yeah. Because that's definitely our philosophy. We can't express it enough by just saying thank you for choosing us. We are just so blessed. God has given us so much, and we just hope that we can continue to glorify Him and give back to in that way as He has given to us. So.
Yeah, so as we land this today, I will put the disclaimer in here. I will do my best to keep twisting Kelly's arm to do this in a timely manner. You should not have to wait 3 months for a podcast when you are malnutrition to hear our input. So I will be more than happy to keep twisting her arm, to keep coming at you with episodes. We are heading into a busy October and November. We don't have a break until after Thanksgiving. And then we kind of like have a brief lull, and we roll back up into it through next year. And so, we're doing everything we can do to, make sure we're hitting our numbers this year, which is good. Last year, with my mom passing away, that really put a big dent in stuff. And so, that's been a blessing. So we're definitely learning as we grow.
And we moved last year.
Yeah,
there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we're learning as we grow, and we're continuing to make sure that we're getting stuff out in a timely manner. And so we're grateful for all that. But once again, thank you very much, and we look forward to coming to you very soon with another podcast. And as we land the plane, say bye, Kelly.
Goodbye, Kelly.